This program is brought to you by the Media Liberty Alliance Foundation in cooperation with OBBM Network TV, bringing citizen-led, creative local media to the forefront of local communities to foster a greater understanding of constitutional liberty and appreciation of what makes us truly free, starting with beauty and meaning.
The Zach Ratliff Show is brought to you by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Texas, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org. The Zach Ratliff Show is sponsored by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Exceed Health Clinic, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org. Hello and welcome to the Zach Ratliff Show. I'm Zach. This is my friend Nancy White. Hey, Nancy.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you, Zach?
I'm good. Okay, you've got a lot going on.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, across the state. And a lot of people listening may have never heard of you. Some of them may have, though. You're on international shows here lately, and just throwing me a pity interview. And man, what? So you're in the. I'll just let you explain what you're doing. I think that's easier than me trying to open up into what you're doing. It started with, you're in Zandt County, and it started with battery energy storage systems, and then how maybe this is a problem. And those are the big, giant semi-truck or bigger sized batteries that they put that have to go with solar farms. And this thing has just grown a lot since then. I think I was one of your first interviews, 2 years ago now on the radio?
Pretty much, yeah.
And so I've watched this thing go from, hey, this is a problem, to, hey, this is a really big problem, to, whoa, we got to figure out who's spying on us through all this stuff. Like it's just blown out of this world already. So just kind of fill us in, and then we'll get to a press release that came out today and all the fun stuff.
Yeah, when you and I had our first interview, I was just learning about the battery storage systems.
Yes.
And, I already had red flags then, and I didn't know where this was going to go. And one of my first presentations was here in Nash, and I absolutely love this group, by the way. And so at any time they ask, I come, and I since then have learned so much. So the battery storage systems, they used to be connected to just solar, wind, or some other energy source, but under the Biden administration, they changed the codes, and now they can have standalone. What that means is they can just connect to a substation.
Right.
So what's happening is these companies are buying up farmland within proximity of substations,
right,
and they're building these industrial battery storage systems in the middle of nowhere,
right,
in places that don't have first response. They don't have a full-time fire department. They don't have a hazmat, which is required with a chemical fire, which is what these emit. And so in that time frame, I over the year in 2025, I worked with the legislative priority for security of the Texas grid. I helped get 11 bills across the finish line, and multiples of those actually went into effect September 1st.
That's awesome.
And because they actually are law now, we are able to use those in what we're doing around here now. And quite frankly, I didn't know where this was going to go. I just knew that it was a problem. And now I started a company at the end of 2025 called Legislative Energy Action Foundation, which I do consultation and education. If you want my help, I will help you. I now help more than 30 counties.
Okay.
I've helped more than 12 states. I even work with the Virgin Islands and Guam. I got a call from London recently. I have been in local media all the way up to international media at this point. It's been a crazy 2025. And 2026 is starting off pretty intense.
Yeah, well, and it's awesome just to watch, really, in the time that I've known you, to watch your confidence level on the subject matter. Just the curve is ridiculous, and then to just I follow you online, and then we're both on the OBBM network, and so just to watch you as it's going, it's been fun. Now we're going to start with my thoughts on private property, and then you can kind of because I know what I feel, but then you can put the actual meat and potatoes around that of how this is different, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So my thought with solar panels and all this thing is, if it's my land, I want to be able to do with it and what I want to do with it. Now, that being said, these batteries aren't the same as if I put solar panels on my house and I need 20 kilowatts of energy and I get a battery in there. We're not talking about that. We're talking about massive. Like I said, they're bigger than a truck trailer, which is 53 feet. They're huge, and there's multiple of them in each location, correct?
Yeah, usually about 45 units, give or take, depending on the size. 100 megawatts is usually about 45 units.
So, and what kind of space is that acreage-wise?
You can get it in 10 acres, but on average, they'll purchase about 40 to 60 acres.
Just for the battery energy storage
Correct,
system.
yeah.
So, that being said, I'm still not against it, because if it's done correctly and safely, which is what we're about to get into, and then that's what you want to lease your property for, okay, it's your property, you're allowed to do that. However, there's so much more that goes on into that with the China ties, the fire department ties. So just kind of bring around the rest of it for me.
I am all for private property rights. Look, I have 22 acres that I live on in the middle of nowhere. I love my land. I will fight you for my land.
Right.
I know that your dad I believe it was your dad was a watermelon farmer.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, my grandpa was.
Grandpa, yeah.
Dad
So
grew up on a watermelon
you
farm.
understand the
Yeah.
appreciation of good farmland on top of that. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do with their land, but here's the reality of the situation. If you're going to sign a legally binding contract, you need to understand what you're signing. You're not signing a contract for someone to come out and bale your hay. You're not signing a contract for them to come build a chicken coop. If you have someone come onto your land and they build a sewage for your property, you have to get that permitted as well. That has to be inspected. If you sign a contract for a commercial industrial build, those have standards and codes they have to meet.
Right.
You're signing a contract not for personal private use, but for public need, public use, and public distribution.
Right.
These industrial commercial builds are not for the confinements of your property. They are for a statewide use.
Right.
Meaning that you need to understand when you sign a contract like this, you're not signing a private property agreement. Yes, the lease is private, but you're signing that legally binding lease contract for an industrial commercial build.
So do we have people signing them that don't understand that?
I would assume not if they think that they're arguing private property rights.
Right.
Because we're not talking private property. Commercial is not private at that point.
So even though it's your land, you can't just lease it to somebody, or you can, but they have to follow the rules that are in play.
You can, but that company has to follow state law.
Okay.
So you can't just build a septic wherever you want on your property and think it's okay.
Yeah.
If you choose to do something of any capacity in this regard, it's a commercial industrial build, you have the right to lease your land. Understand what you're signing, because if you're signing something that requires state law to get involved, they will, because it's a safety issue.
Okay. So now let's go into the safety issue around these, and then we can get into where the state law plays into it.
Yeah. So first off, lithium in and of itself is a very reactive. It's technically it's a very light metal, lighter than gas, but it's metal technically. And so when you're looking at that, lithium, you have about 6 grams of lithium in a AA battery. You can't even take that onto an airplane because it's explosive. You have phones.
That's why you can't take the batteries on?
Yeah, it's explosive.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you can't take it on the battery, or you can't take it onto an airplane, because if it catches fire, they have to take down the plane. They have to bring it down, because again, and even then, a AA battery on an airplane that starts to cause a fire, they have to take it down because it emits those toxic gases even then.
Right.
And then those toxic gases include hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen cyanide, carbon monoxide. So they can't stay in the air even for a AA battery, because they emit toxic gases, even for 6 grams.
Because it's dangerous to everyone on the plane.
Yes.
If a AA battery catches on fire.
Which is 6 grams of lithium approximately. An EV car has about 16 pounds of lithium. And even then, they have to completely submerge the vehicle for months, and it keeps burning under that water as it's submerged. and it can reactivate.
Okay.
And then you take that and you go to an industrial scale and you're looking at over 100,000 pounds of lithium on site.
Okay.
So scale matters in this instance. If you have to take down an airplane because of a AA battery and your phone has a couple grams of lithium and those are explosive, and then you have the EV vehicles at 16 pounds of lithium, and then you take that to 100,000 plus, you're going to have safety issues at that point. So
I did a quick internet search of how many grams in a pound, because I don't know. So just exactly 453.59237 grams in a pound. So for 6 grams, they'll land a plane.
They'll land a plane.
You're talking about taking 453 times 100,000. So 400, golly, what is that, million?
That's a lot.
Yeah. And so, so I just wanted to make sure we're all understanding the scale.
It's a lot more significant than, so even then an EV vehicle, the motor, the 16 pounds of lithium, and then you take that and you still multiply that by 100.
Right.
And then another 100 and then another 100, because we're looking at 100,000 plus.
Yeah.
100 megawatt site on average actually has about closer to 150,000 pounds of lithium. And that's typically the smallest.
So then if these gases get out, which happens if it catches on fire, what happens if you can't put it out? How do you put it out? If you can't put water on it?
Nothing.
Because that's a problem. So it just has to burn.
Yeah, the current parameters are let it burn.
So these gases that are emitted, what happens to, is there a radius around?
Yeah. So the starting radius on average for evacuation, so you have to have evacuation, is 1.3 miles starting. And this comes from the company. So like I've heard it directly from them, 1.3 miles. They'll say 500 feet all day long because, you know, they try to use that. But it's 1.3 miles is usually the starting evacuation point for lithium in that regard. And again, it's because it creates hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen cyanide, carbon monoxide. There's a reason we have those detectors in our house, right?
Right.
And so in that, your starting point is 1.3. Other variables do impact that, such as wind and things like that. That's the starting evacuation point, okay? And then outside of that, you have what's called indoor lockdown. So like, assume it's like, and let me give context for a second. These batteries go from a normal stasis temperature, which is under 180 degrees, to over 3,000 degrees in 90 seconds, over 20,000 degrees in minutes, okay? So like, they're very high heat burning chemicals that they're creating. Okay. And so in this, you have to evacuate a certain perimeter based off of wind trajectory, based off a lot of factors. And then outside of that, you have to go into indoor lockdown. Assume it's July in Texas and it just overheated, right?
Right.
If you're in indoor lockdown in Texas, you cannot have air or any kind of outside airflow coming into your home. You cannot open your door to let that dog out. And meanwhile, while they're evacuating you, they're not evacuating your livestock. So remembrance, they're building these in agricultural areas near cattle ranchers and horse farmers and people who do like honey for their bees and grow food and things like that. These metals and these things that are emitted from this actually build up in those areas. And in livestock, it actually causes stillbirth because stillbirth is an environmental impact.
Right.
So these types of gases can cause stillbirth in livestock on top of that. And so they're evacuating you, they're not evacuating your livestock. And there is a cattle rancher right on the perimeter of the one in Van Zandt County. And then on top of that, you look at Monterey Bay, you look at Warwick, New York, this impacts way further than 2 miles. You're looking at close to 18 to 20 miles. There were people in Prunedale that got lithium poisoning in their blood, and they were over 15 miles from the Monterey Bay location.
Because of wind or whatever carries it.
Correct. And then it also rained in that time frame.
Oh, yeah. So then the water.
Yeah.
Well, and so, and even just to stick on the safety part of it, so these gases are out. There's no oxygen in the air, right?
No.
So because it doesn't, so you suffocate if you're inside this, let's just call it the 1.5 miles. Like your car ain't going to start because you can't get oxygen to your engine, right? I mean, there's a whole lot of things. So if somebody's coming to rescue you, they better have an oxygen mask on.
Now let me tell you what makes it worse. You have to have hazmat to determine evacuation.
Okay.
Most rural communities do not have hazmat. Your closest one is usually in a big city.
Right.
So in a place like Van Zandt County, our closest hazmat is over 90 miles away.
Oh, wow.
And I told you within minutes, it's already emitting those toxic gases.
Right.
90 minutes plus of waiting for a hazmat to show up and tell you to evacuate. What about all those people within that parameter for that hour and a half that aren't being evacuated?
So they would need instant notification to leave.
Yes. And then even then our emergency response will still have to go door to door. Because what if someone's bedridden? What if they're on hospice? What if they can't just leave? They need medical transportation. Right. Our first responders have to show up and make sure they're leaving and that they have transportation. You don't know what they're getting, what they're not getting. What if they don't have good service there? We still have to go door to door in that evacuation area with our emergency response and make sure that people are leaving because it's deadly. It's not an option at that point. But our fire department, our fire chief and them, they got their training. The training consisted of your job is to show up at the facility, wait outside the gate, and wait for the professionals.
Okay. So I think we've established the danger here.
Yes.
Now let's go into what I first heard you talk about 2 years ago. Texas has pipelines that run all across it. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to build these in places close to natural gas, oil, all of these type things. Mm-hmm. We can't get to it to put it out because there's no way to put it out. You just have to let it burn out. And also there's a pipeline there.
Yes.
And I mean, this isn't a hypothetical.
No, there's a pipeline. So the way that the railroad commissioner wrote this is that they cannot build it within 25 feet of the pipe.
So 3,000 degrees has to have at least 25 feet.
So you cannot build a structure within 25 feet. Now, let me go ahead and add this caveat. The pipes are not that deep.
Right.
It does not take long, especially on longevity, for that type of heat to impact a pipe that's not that deep.
Right.
So you have it outside the 25 feet, but not by much when you look at the site.
Right.
And then you also have that substation, which has all the other chemicals and other lithium and things within the substation itself that is reactive. So yes, right there at that site in Van Zandt County, you have a pipeline that goes from the coast all the way up to Hammond, Indiana. It's over 1,800 miles long.
Okay.
And it has sour gas, jet fuel, and diesel.
So exactly what you would want there.
Yeah. You got one bum. Let's go ahead and add two more.
and so I'm just trying to build to, as we get into this, how dangerous this is.
Yeah.
So and I just looked this up on the internet. When we talk about 3,000 degrees, the sun is approximately 9,000 degrees. So a third of as hot as the sun could be in your county on fire that somebody that you can't put out, that's 25 feet from a buried gas line that nobody can get to rescue you because there's no oxygen in the air. Like, I'm not trying to make this any bigger deal than it is, but it seems to be a big deal.
It is, in my opinion. A lot of people say it's fear mongering, but whenever the fire experts and, the state fire marshal and all these entities are saying, yeah, no, that's a problem. Right. Even the entity, so Dr. Steele is an example. He helped write the NFP fire standards and codes that the state uses. Okay. And he actually acknowledges, yeah, no, this is a problem.
Right. Yeah, this is not good. Okay. So that's kind of just, I wanted to lay the background. So where are we today? What's going on? Fill us in on
hot off the press.
Yeah, the Paul Harvey of it all, the rest of the story.
Oh, that's an interesting analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So press release, it came out today. So my biggest issue, so we could talk about fire standards codes. Yes, all these things that we've discussed are a problem, but they're not my biggest problem.
Okay.
My biggest issue with battery storage systems is that they rely on CCP military,
which is the Chinese Communist Party.
Yes. So every single battery storage system of scale uses these battery cells from Contemporary Amperex Technology Limited, CATL, or CATL. Okay. These battery cells are a critical component.
Which I'll be honest, I don't know if I've seen the CATL abbreviation. There's something else, or because I see so much of your stuff. So I'm like, I don't know where I've seen this, but I know I've seen it.
Yes, probably for mine. I talk about it a lot because it's a big problem for me. And so this company creates the battery cells that operate it. So for context, you put a battery in your remote, it operates. You take the battery out of your remote, it doesn't operate.
Yeah.
You put a battery cell in a battery unit, it operates. You take the battery cell out, it doesn't operate. You cannot operate the battery without it. With that said, that battery cell comes from Contemporary Amperex, right? Well, Contemporary Amperex is on the Department of War's prohibited technology list due to civil military fusion. Okay. Meaning that they will use...
The United States Department of War.
Yes, the United States Department of War, yes. Okay. And what that means, civil military fusion, means that they will use everyday builds as a way to harm Americans. And to go a step further, in 2024, the governor of Texas issued Executive Order 49. And in it, he said that the People's Liberation Army, or the CCP, want to cause real world harm to Americans to break our will to resist.
Right.
And they will do that by using our infrastructure. He even mentions the Lone Star Infrastructure Protection Plan in this executive order.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on January 30th of this year, the governor added CATL to the prohibited technology list.
Okay.
So my biggest issue is, how many layers do you need people to say this is a problem, they are a threat, before you stop it?
Right. So these are being allowed to be placed on these farms or on this land currently.
More than 1,000 sprinkled across Texas infrastructure.
So 1,000 of these,
Battery bombs
okay, with Chinese technology
that controls it.
are here already, not coming.
They're built. They're being built. They're not already. So, like, if you look at all this stuff coming around with Winter Storm Fern, and they're talking about how the battery stepped in, we'll go back to that in a minute. If you look at how many megawatts are active, I don't remember what the exact amount is. That's how many are planned in the interconnection queue.
Okay.
That's not how many are active. But we went from like a few to over, I think it's over 300 now, but it's more than it should be regardless when you're looking at the components.
Right. Well, and here, just an aside, maybe it might be relevant. Everybody, the left always wants to act like how dangerous coal is and how dangerous natural gas is, but it's not this. We've mastered that technology, and we own that technology, and we're in control of that technology, and we can. I told you I know somebody that's works midstream. We can stop the flow if we need to. Like, there's so many things that we just don't have control over. When if you have a smart TV and you have the internet at your house, they can, we all do it, right? Especially if you're streaming, you talk about something and then there's a commercial for it. You talk about something in front of your phone, then Facebook has an ad for you. So if they can do that, why, if their technology is inside the cooling system of a battery storage system, why couldn't they just turn that off and cause an explosion?
Or better yet, they could activate the safety mechanism, the fire suppression system. So here, we're going to go into this. So Joe Wise is an international cyber expert. He's recognized in the Hall of Fame. He's somebody that I have the privilege of working with. And he actually worked and investigated so Moss Landing in Monterey Bay has caught fire multiple times.
Okay.
And
where is that?
That's California.
Okay.
Okay, so that one, everybody knows about Moss Landing 2025. Very few actually know about 2021.
Right.
So in 2021, they had a fire. It started off-gassing. There was an issue. What it came down to, Joe actually investigated this, and come to find out what actually occurred is the fire suppression system activated too early.
Okay.
It sprayed water on a unit that didn't need it, and this caused the fire because, again, you can't put water on lithium. It's
a chemical
reactive.
reaction.
And so what they could do is, it's not air gapped, meaning that there's nothing to stop them to connect to the internet from this. Okay. This is all in the letters. This will come out in a week. So that's coming. But in this, what you need to know is, technically, all they have to do is activate the safety system and overload it itself. If they activate the safety system and cause it to react, they can cause a fire. And go a step further, who cares about the cooling system? What if they close the inverter loop? If they close the inverter loop and the system starts cycling, it starts to overheat, and therefore you have it that way too.
It's just heating
We
itself
can
up.
keep going. There are multiple points where you can cause this activation and failure, especially when you hold the door to do it. And when CCP holds the key, there you go.
So what do we do? We've got Chinese technology in our state, in our country, on volatile 100,000-pound bombs. Okay,
We need to stop
are we
it.
lost? How do we stop it?
We need a moratorium, first and foremost. So in true government form, you're going to have to go through the checks and balances. So first and foremost, we need a moratorium to keep any more from going active. Don't allow any more to interconnect until you investigate the ones that are already active.
Right.
So if the governor is saying that this technology is prohibited, keep in mind that's not the only company on that list that it's in our infrastructure. You have the parts from the transformers. You have Goshen, which is another big part of it. So there's multiple companies on there. Don't allow anything else like this to go active until you properly investigate what exists. Now let's go a step further and why you need to investigate. Okay. ERCOT submitted an investigation to the Public Utility Commission
And for
of Texas.
those that aren't in Texas, because only 40% of my audience is local, or not local, is in Texas. So what is ERCOT?
ERCOT is the largest grid of Texas. It operates 90% of Texas grid.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's Energy Reliability Council of Texas.
Okay.
ERCOT. Yeah. And so
Off the cuff.
I know too many acronyms is the problem
Yeah.
at this point. And so they operate 90% of Texas grid. They had to submit an investigation to the Public Utility Commission of Texas because what these companies are supposed to do in the Lone Star Law is they're supposed to submit proof whether or not they have these components from China, Iran, Russia, or North Korea. They are missing more than 700 of them.
Oh, of course.
So meanwhile, while we're acknowledging that there are entities within our infrastructure that are prohibited technology, not only from the Department of War, the highest of high on national security, right? But our governor themselves, we're not stopping them.
Which is wild.
So the first thing we need to do is get a moratorium across the state saying, hold on, we need to look at this a bit further.
Yeah.
And going back to the winter storm, and I'm just going to throw it out there because this drives me absolutely bananas. So when people are talking about, well, yeah, the batteries got us through the winter storm, you realize what you're saying is China got us through the winter storm.
Which is a problem.
Yes. So meaning that China could also harm us in the middle of an extreme winter storm.
Yeah.
Because we're looking, if they shut us down in a bad winter storm, say it's Uri all over again, and they decide that they don't want their batteries to operate, or they activate these bombs and our hazmat can't get there, or fire can't get you evacuated, and you're trapped in this icy winter storm. I know that seems extreme, but how extreme is it whenever they're using civil military fusion to cause real world harm? And additionally, when the leader of China from the CCP military, Xi Jinping himself, said that they will take back Taiwan by 2027, how do you think they're going to do that?
Well, I'll answer your question. If you can shut down one of the top 10 largest economies in the world, which is Texas, because you're tied into their infrastructure, into their grid, you start setting and I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but it makes sense in my mind because we're at war with China, or they're at war with us. We won't admit to being at war with them, but they're at war with us, definitely.
Oh, they're playing Chinese checkers for sure.
Yeah, that's right. So if they set this off and shut down the Texas grid, you got a lot more to worry about than Taiwan.
I'm going to go a step further for you. Reagan said that the war was won on the back of the blades of what?
I don't remember.
Oil in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Reagan stated that the war was won because of the oil in Texas.
Okay.
If you shut down oil production and you're pushing for intermittent renewable energy that comes from China, and you're making yourself reliant on China, and we don't have oil, we have not created new oil processing plants in the United States in 3 decades almost.
Right.
So we won a war based off of the oil in Texas, as we are now trying to stop the oil in Texas. Make that make sense to me why we would do that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it just, that's the problem. None of it makes any sense. I don't know why we're allowing ourselves, and you're not. You're out there. You're out there fighting the fight, right?
Yeah. So how do you get a moratorium across the state? Well, I'm going to tell you where I'm going to start. So the press release today. Next Wednesday, the 11th, my county commissioner court will be passing a moratorium against all builds, solar, wind, and battery, which is 17, by the way, in our small little Hay capital of Northeast Texas County.
Right.
And it is going to be in place until the Texas Attorney General completes his investigation into CATL, into critical infrastructure.
Okay.
Zandt County is going to show you what true patriotism is.
Right.
We're not going to sit back and wait for China to attack. We're going to stand up, and we're going to stand up loudly, and we're going to use the Texas Attorney General's documents. We're going to use the governor's documents. We're going to use the lieutenant governor's documents. We're going to use the Department of Justice documents, Department of War documents, everything that they have available to them. And we're going to use that to stand on principle, which is America first and citizen safety.
It just makes sense. So when someone like me, who was naive to the subject, says, oh, it's about private property. Okay, it is. But it's also about national security. It's also about infrastructure security. There's so much more around it that, we're gaslit in a lot of ways about a lot of things. And it just so happens that they're trying to gaslight us about this too. Luckily, 2 years ago, you stepped up like, hey, this is a problem.
Well, they had good marketing.
Good marketing.
And we wanted it though, right? We wanted green energy. We wanted sustainable energy. We wanted clean energy. This has been known in Texas, in the United States, since the 60s and 70s. We've wanted it for a long time, and they gave it to us, or so we thought. They had good marketing.
Yeah. Well, coal, gas, oil, nuclear.
If you want clean energy, why aren't we doing nuclear?
Right. We have ships sailing all around the world, nuclear powered. You can even do the small reactors now that can power 25, 50,000 people at a time. You can say even some of the data centers that Bill Gates and those type are putting in, they're putting their own nuclear reactors in them. This is very safe and doable now.
Oh yeah, if you could power the entire county of Zandt County on 13 acres with a small nuclear reactor.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's better to build a 140,000 pound bomb.
Yeah. Somehow, which by the way does not create energy. It takes energy from other sources, and it cannot actually provide anything. It's charging. And here's the thing. Here's something to consider when you're looking at batteries and longevity. You know how they say that you don't leave your phone charging overnight on the charger because it burns down the battery faster?
Oh, no, I charge mine all night.
Oh, I do too. We know what we're supposed to do, right?
But yes,
I'll upgrade later.
I've heard that.
Yeah, but you know that's because it runs down the lithium battery. Yeah. It's the lithium battery that it burns down faster. So you're not supposed to if you want to keep it longer, right? So what does that look like if you're constantly connected to the grid or it's constantly charging?
Which was my next question. What's the sustainability for these batteries? And then how much can they give back versus how much they're charged? How long do they hold this amount of power?
So it's based off of the inverter size. So ERCOT just put in a new parameter, or Public Utility Commission just put in a new parameter that it's 4 hours.
Okay.
So it was 2 to 4 hours. Now the inverters, the size of it comes down to 4 hours. Okay. So 4 hours of power. That's it.
So for how far around these?
It provides 22 homes per unit, and it's based off of where it's connected to. So, for example, the one in Zandt County we're talking about, that's for Rockwall County. Okay. That's where it connects to. It doesn't connect to Zandt County at all.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So it depends on
where. Still our water and our land
for the city. Yeah. For the city, it's always for the city. You know, kind of like with the Marvin Nichols situation. Yeah. They need water, so they want to take our land.
Right.
They need power, so they want to take our land. They want these backup. And here's another thing. You have to use battery storage systems for AI data centers to keep them operational. Like you just see this during Winter Storm Fern. They have to kick it on, right? Which means that if we're competing with China for the data centers, that's why we're doing all this, right? We're competing with China, yet we're relying on China for them to not fail.
It seems like a dirty little game we're playing, honestly.
It's Chinese checkers, and we want what we want, and we're so short-sighted that you can't see the bigger picture. Isn't that a problem?
It seems to be.
I have a problem with it. I know that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Logically speaking, when you understand it, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great marketing, and there's a lot of people that think that Winter Storm Uri proved that we need solar and wind. Most people don't even understand that Winter Storm Uri proved that solar and wind was actually a failure. It actually was a big problem during that.
Where was it? And I think you mentioned earlier, was it last year? Where Spain shut down?
Oh, the Iberian Spain blackout? Yeah, it was 2025, yeah.
And so what, just from a good old boy's perspective of my reading, what happened was there was actually plenty of power, but because without the mechanical rhythms of motors,
AC, DC,
and power generation and all this, that created a little bump. So it was all, and it makes it a little static. And so when it was all smooth, the shut off for that emergency grid shut off, and they couldn't get it back because it was all so constant. And then it turns out it won't work that way. So if you don't have power generation out of actual factories, the grid can't handle it.
No. And actually, few interesting details there. 3 days prior to that shutdown, Spain was boasting that they're 100% renewable now.
Yes, they were.
And then they shut down. And it was because of the renewables that they shut down.
Yep.
And so let me explain the physics of grids right now, because you got to understand the physics and when they were created. And so I'm going to throw some words at you that most people know, but they don't understand that it equates to the grid. Okay? E equals mc squared. Mass, inertia, energy. These are the physics of the grid. So here's the thing. I want you to picture this in your mind. So you're standing on the edge of a cliff. You and 9 of your buddies think it'd be cool to shove this boulder, this huge boulder over the side, and you all 10 work together and you shove this boulder over the side of the cliff. It's rolling down the hill. It's creating inertia. It's creating energy. It's a big
energy.
mass and it's getting stronger and more powerful. Okay. Same hill, same side, just you holding a teeny tiny pebble and you throw it over that same cliff. Totally different things, right?
Right.
That's the inertia and energy that renewable energy creates. And it's an intermittent. We talked about inverters for batteries, 4 hours. Solar and wind operate on inverters, meaning that it doesn't matter if the sun is shining 15 hours in a day, you're only getting about 5 hours of energy on average because of the inverter. It doesn't matter if the wind is blowing 24 hours a day, you're only going to get about 7 hours of energy because of the inverter.
Half those windmills don't spin anyway if you're
Exactly.
out there.
And on top of that, you're talking about clean energy and clean environment. I actually spoke
those
to an
are
engineer.
filthy.
I talked to an engineer. Whenever they freeze, they have to spray petroleum on them to get them going
They
again.
leak oil all the time. Yeah.
So they're not green, they're not clean, they're not
And we get
environmentally
those from
friendly.
China too.
Yes. The inverters from those come from China too, actually. And so when you're looking at that and you're looking at the operation of the grid, you're putting in energy that is not adequate to the physics of the grid. So what are they having to do to fix that? They're putting up new transmission lines everywhere because they can't reach it where it needs to go because it's not strong enough to reach the location.
Right.
So they're having to build all these transmission lines through eminent domain where they're taking people's land. All while, by the way, paying for it because 40% of your electricity bill and your rate accounts for those transmission lines.
And then now the good thing where we are here is we are not on the ERCOT grid.
Oh, yes. You're very fortunate.
And so then we have our own coal-powered plant, 25 minutes from here. And I'm thankful for it. And then, of course, on into Arkansas, they have the Russellville nuclear plant and other plants. And I'm good with all that. And I often think about that when you see the stuff about the Texas grid is going to start having brownouts and blackouts. I'm like, not us.
Not my problem. Right. Yeah. And that, here's an interesting thing. Most people don't even know this. Texas actually doesn't just have one grid. We have 7. And you just actually pointed that out. You're in Texas and you're not on the ERCOT grid.
Right.
And people don't understand that. And it's primarily around the perimeter of Texas. So like the Texas-New Mexico grid, that's not ERCOT.
Right.
And this can keep going. The Louisiana grid is different right there on the perimeter there. So there are actually 7 grids in Texas. And ERCOT is the most heard and seen because it's the one that's independent from the rest of the nation.
Right. Yeah. And Texas often boasts about having their own grid and if the nation goes down. However, if Texas goes down, it's just inner Texas that's affected. The rest of us on the edges, we're okay.
Yeah.
And it's a weird spot to be on this.
Here's a fun question for you. Why Texas, though? Why would it Texas is it's key. Don't get me wrong. So if you take down Texas, we talked about the oil, but what else?
Oh, well, the military. I mean,
There's a
military
lot of
application.
factors.
Yeah. I mean,
So have you ever heard the saying, where Texas goes, the nation will follow?
oh, absolutely.
So if Texas falls, where does the nation go?
Well, I gave a speech in 2020 when I was running for U.S. Congress.
Okay.
And I said, my point was, if conservatism dies in Texas, it dies in the country, which is why our local elections and all this, and our local party and your state rep and all, it's why it matters that you have to have somebody that truly believes in your values and your principles, because if we lose conservatism here, we lose it in the country. And just like if we lose our energy independence, it's just where we are, right?
Yeah, well, and most people don't understand when you say conservatism, some people think that that's a nasty thing, but let's talk about what conservatism is. It means to conserve your water, to conserve your power, to conserve your land, to conserve your money. These are what
All
conservatism
of which are resources.
Yes.
Conservatism is conserving your resources.
Did you hear recently that they pulled pennies out of production?
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel bad for the lady at 7 Brew. I probably ruined her entire month because she was like, "Yeah, they pulled pennies from circulation," and she's like,
they didn't pull from circulation.
"From production."
From production.
Yes, from production. Yes.
A side note on that: the final 200 pennies have a special mark in them, and they put them into general population. So if you can find one of those 200 pennies with this certain mark on it, there's no telling what they're worth.
I'm going to have to go through my bucket now.
Yeah, I mean, they just dropped them in 2025.
Okay.
Those final 200 pennies. And if you have one, you're a millionaire.
I'm going to hoard pennies like a crazy person now. But okay, so the poor lady at the coffee shop, she was like, yeah, they're going to be taking all coins out of production soon. And before you know it, dollar bills. And I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
And she was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Why do you think that is? And she was like, well, I don't know. And I was like, well, because digital currency.
Right.
Silver and gold is what gives us our independence from the government. It's
Which
part
is why
of
Texas has its own. Is that where you're going? I'm sorry.
Yes, but my point is that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Silver and gold is key. That is our operation to keep sustainability and to conserve our we the people rights.
Yes.
If you put it into digital currency, you just gave hands and power to someone outside of yourself. You can't stuff it under a mattress. You can't hide it in the ground. You don't have anything if it's not in that digital currency. And that's a big red flag. We need to make sure people understand silver and gold are king, and it's that way for a reason. So there's a lot of factors that goes into this for sure. And I think that it's interesting when you're looking at what we're doing in government and what we're making decisions to do, and you realize that we are not conserving. We're not conserving our money. We're not conserving our energy.
No.
We have a problem.
We have a huge problem. The Republican Party has a huge problem. I always say Democrats are the Democrats, and they're exactly who they tell you they are.
Yes.
You just have to...
At least you know where you stand.
Right. You just have to believe them. A lot of people won't believe them. Like, oh, they wouldn't do that. Yes, they would. That's who they are. And so I respect them for the fact that they are who they say they are. And all Democrats ride for the brand. They're there. Whatever the party boss says, or the trail boss, or however you want to put it, that's where they go. It doesn't matter. We're Republicans. We're a little bit more free thinkers. We actually have
a little bit
a liberal frame of mind from the fact that we like liberal thought. We like being able to express ourselves and think for ourselves and not being told what to do. And so to bring all that together is really hard because we're all so opinionated. We don't all have just the same opinion. So then you get the cracks and the crevices of our party. Well, then, of course, the main problem for Republicans is 50% of them are really Democrats, and they just won't tell you. So once you get past that, we're all still thinking and doing our own thing. Well, you got to bring all this together and say, hey, here's the problem. But we all are so much into instant gratification that we can't take each thing and we're like, oh, we'll work on this for a little bit. We'll work on this for a little bit. And so nothing ever gets done.
When really what we should be doing is working together. Like, I focus on the grid and energy, and I would like for you to support me. If you work on sexualizing for children, I'll support you. If you work on the data centers, I'll support you.
Right.
We can't all be experts in everything, but we should be working together.
Right.
And I think that that's an important thing. Everybody's like, well, my thing's more important. My thing's more important. This needs to be focused on. It's more important. Well, why can't they all be important? All of these things are necessary. I'm not claiming to be an expert in the Islamification of Texas.
Right.
But if you need my help, tell me where and why. And let me help.
And I said this in an interview I did earlier today. We should be an educated electorate. And so if you don't, like you said, you don't have to be, what's the saying? A jack of all trades and a master of none. But the rest of the saying is, but a master of one, but a master of many is better than a master of one, or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's the rest of, if you know a lot about a lot or a little about a lot, that's real valuable. So if we could do this in pieces, okay, I need to understand the Islamification. I need to understand a little bit about what's going on with the grid. I need to know how the medical field is affecting us. I need to know what's happening at the border. I need to know all these things. And then when somebody brings up, you can say, well, here's what I've heard. Here's where you can go to find those sources.
Yes.
And then we can educate each other as a party and then you get outside the party as a people to have freedom.
Oh, yeah.
But without people actually, so I don't cuss on this show very often, but there's a joke where they talk about the talk about people that don't know shit. Okay, and it's a comedian and it's out there, but he goes through the thing. He goes, that's what we've lost in our country is. Used to be some old guy like, I don't believe the guy. He didn't know anything, right? And so nobody will tell you that anymore. You think everybody's an expert. Everybody can't be an expert, but you can know a little bit, and then you can take those resources and be like, okay, here are these issues. Let's get together on them. But then when you get to a state legislature that stabs us in the back, then what are you going to do?
embarrass them.
And that's what you're on the plan to do.
Yeah. So, for example, I'm known as the grid girl or the battery girl.
Okay.
If you have questions, people typically send you my way. But like, for example, if you have a question about sexualizing children, I'll probably send you to Kristen Bentley.
Yeah.
If you ask me about these kill switches in vehicles, I'll send you to Rachel Hale. Like, you need to know enough to be dangerous, but always get them to the person who will give the kill shot, right?
Yeah.
I'm the kill shot on the batteries, but I'm not the kill shot on these other areas. And the bottom line is the experts, they need to exist, but we can't all be experts in every field. We have to work together, and we have to stop fighting each other. Because the reality is, and the reason the Democrats that you're bringing up are so good at what they do is because they are united in where they stand, and the Republicans are fighting each other. And in Texas, that's pivotal, because the reason for that is because Texas stands on being a Republican state, which is why you get the rhino effect, Republican in name only, because there are people who've only voted Democrat, who've only shown up in Democrat forums, that learned that they're not going to get anywhere with that stance.
That's exactly right.
And then they get in there and they start voting Democrat. And then it becomes very clear you were never the Republican that you claimed you were, because they said it. We didn't verify because it was only on the surface.
Right. And look, I understand for those out there listening that it's, and they hear this all the time, but it's easy to say, hey, I've got to get little Johnny football practice. I got to get little Susie to volleyball, and I've got to do this, and the mortgage is due, and things are stacking up. Hadn't been to church in a month because I've been sick. Life happens. But once again, that's why you need to know, hey, so-and-so knows about this.
Yeah.
I can call them and ask them, hey, so-and-so has this. I can find this out. And then be able to go to those sources and utilize them. We don't have to do it all alone.
No.
And then, like, I'm looking at my phone, especially you have the information of the world in your hand, or are listening to this show or watching this show.
How many times did you Google just now?
Right.
Right?
That's exactly right.
It's acceptable. You have it.
You can do it, and it wasn't being rude, but it was very much to do what we're doing. But you have all the information right here. You can stop watching cat videos for a second and and see what's going on.
Yeah. And the reality is it might not feel good, but we shouldn't be doing things because they feel good. Let me tell you something. We're going to end up in a very painful war. It's coming. It's going to happen one way or the other. It's in trajectory already. The reality is if enough people do not wake up, if you think your feelings hurt, wait till you get shot. Yeah. Okay. So you may think that protecting your feelings are key, but China doesn't care about your feelings, and they don't care if you survive.
Right. Well, and one thing you said earlier about the digital currency, which we know is a goal, even biblically, it doesn't call it digital currency, but one world government with one world currency, that plays. But if they can't take our guns for us, because we're hard on that. Okay, we can take your power from you.
Take
we
your
can
water.
take your way to do commerce. We can take your water. Then you're just going to have to go with a war with each other. If you look across the United States, they've taken our way to make ammo. Like we can take everything around it, and you won't ever know until it's too late.
To do what? Break your will to resist.
Right. And then they can rule us.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up. How do people find out more about you? Where can they see you? All the things.
So you can go to my business website, legislativeenergyactionfoundation.com. You can follow me on social media. Facebook is just Nancy White, not hard to find. On X or Twitter, whichever way you want to call it these days, it's Nancy, then the number 4 Thinking. So Nancy 4 Thinking. Or you can just call me. It's 469-595-1691. Again, 469-595-1691. Shoot me a text, call me. Let's see how I can help you.
There we go. Thank you for being here. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, everybody, we're out of here. I hope God blesses each and every one of you today.